You ever wonder why some people just seem to light up when they're faced with a challenge while other people kind of shrink away? Well, it turns out the answer has less to do with our actual abilities and everything to do with what we believe about our abilities. So let's just dive right in, because this idea, it could totally change how you look at, well, everything.
Okay, take a second. I want you to really think about that statement. It's a question from the psychologist Carol Dweck, and your gut reaction, it probably sorts you into one of two completely different worlds. Your answer, believe it or not, reveals this invisible script you might be using to live your life. So what's it for you? Agree or disagree?
So if you found yourself nodding along, thinking, yeah, that sounds about right, then you might be operating from what's called a fixed mindset. This is the view that our core qualities, how smart we are, our talents, are basically set in stone. You get a certain amount, and that's that. And your main job in life becomes proving to everyone that you have enough.
But if you disagreed with that statement, you're tapping into a growth mindset. And this is a totally different way of seeing the world. It's the belief that our abilities aren't fixed at all. They're more like muscles that we can build up over time. It says, yeah, brains and talent are great, but they're just the starting point. The real magic happens with dedication and hard work.
Okay, so definitions are one thing, but how does this stuff actually play out in the real world? Well, the difference between these two mindsets becomes super clear when things go wrong. So let's imagine you're having one of those days. You know the kind. Just a really, truly bad day.
Let's paint a picture. You get a C- on the midterm you actually studied for. Ugh. Then you walk to your car and see that bright, ugly slip of a parking ticket on your windshield. And to top it all off, you call your best friend to vent, and they totally blow you off. Just a perfect storm of frustrating.
And this is where the two mindsets take you down completely different roads. From a fixed mindset, that bad day isn't just a series of events. It's a final judgment. It becomes, I'm a failure. I'm a loser. It's a verdict on who you are, and it leads to feeling helpless. But the growth mindset, it sees the exact same day and thinks, okay, action items. It's a to-do list. Study differently, park better, figure out what's going on with my friend.
And that, right there, is the key. It's not that the growth mindset person isn't bummed out. Of course they are. But they separate the event from their identity. The failure isn't a permanent tattoo on their soul. It's more like a memo. It's just information pointing you toward what you need to do next to learn and to get back on track.
Now you might be thinking, okay, fixed mindset sounds like a confidence problem. But here is where this gets really interesting and kind of dangerous. This can be a massive trap for the most successful people. There's even a name for it, the CEO disease. This belief that it was your raw, innate talent that got you to the top, and that talent alone is going to keep you there.
Just listen to this quote. It's from Lee Iacocca, the legendary auto exec. After this unbelievable string of successes, he got fired from Ford, and he was just floored by it. Absolutely shocked. Why? Because his fixed mindset had convinced him that he was special, that he was just built different, and that the rules of failure just didn't apply to him.
And you can see the fallout, right? It wasn't just a personal belief. It had real-world consequences. At Chrysler, he fell right into this trap. He thought his genius was all that mattered, so he stopped listening to anybody, he stopped innovating, and he started blaming everyone else when the company started churning out cars nobody wanted. He was so busy protecting his image as a genius that he stopped doing the work that made him one.
Okay, this brings us to one of the most mind-blowing parts of this whole topic. We all want to build up the people around us, our kids, our students. And what's the go-to praise? You're so smart. We think we're helping, right? We're building their confidence. But what if? What if we're actually doing the exact opposite?
Check this out. It's from a famous study where students were given some problems. Afterwards, one group was praised for their intelligence. Wow, you must be really smart at this. The other group was praised for their effort. Wow, you must have worked really hard. Then they gave all the kids a much harder set of problems, and the results were just staggering. The kids praised for effort. They dug in, tried harder, and their performance actually went up. The smart kids, their performance completely tanked. And if that wasn't enough, here's the real kicker. When they were asked to report their scores later, nearly 40% of the kids who were told they were smart lied. They inflated their scores. Why? Because when you praise intelligence, you make success about who they are. So the risk of looking like a failure becomes so scary, they'd rather cheat. It makes them afraid of effort itself.
So, what's the move? How do we get this right? It's all about switching our focus from the person to the process. Praising the strategies, the hard work, the persistence, all the stuff that actually leads to achievement. When we do that, challenges stop being a test to see if you're smart enough. They become what they should be, a lesson, an opportunity to get smarter.
The tennis legend Billie Jean King absolutely nails it with this quote. "A true champion isn't someone who never has a bad day. Come on, a real champion is defined by what they do on those bad days. It's not about being flawless, it's about being resilient. And resilience, that is a skill you grow. It is not a gift you're born with." Let me tell you maybe the greatest story about this ever. It's 1964. Jim Marshall, a football player, recovers a fumble and runs 66 yards for a touchdown in the wrong direction on national TV. I mean, can you imagine the humiliation? A fixed mindset would just crumble. But at halftime, Marshall stood up in front of his team and said, "I messed up." He took full responsibility. And then he went out and played one of the best second halves of his entire career. That mistake didn't define him as a failure. His response to it revealed his character.
So, the million-dollar question, can we actually change our own mindset? And the answer is a huge yes. The best way to think about it is probably that movie Groundhog Day. Remember Bill Murray's character? He starts off trapped in a miserable, cynical, fixed mindset. He only breaks the cycle when he shifts to a growth mindset, when he starts using his time to learn, to connect, to get better. And that journey, it's possible for every single one of us.
And here's a practical 4-step path to get you started. First, just accept it. We all have that fixed mindset voice. It's not a flaw, it's just a part of being human. Second, get to know what wakes it up. What are its triggers? Is it when you face a huge challenge or get some criticism? Third, and I love this one, give that voice a name. Seriously, call it Cranky Carl or the Judge. It sounds silly, but it creates separation. It's not you, it's just Carl being loud again. And finally, step 4, you educate that persona. You have a conversation with it. You say, "Hey, I hear you. I know this is scary, but we're going to try to learn from this. So come on, you're coming along for the ride."
Ultimately, this whole conversation comes down to this one question for you. When you look back on your life one day, what do you want your story to be? Do you want to say, "I could have been great," polishing your potential like an old trophy you never won? Or do you want to be able to say, "I went for it, I learned, I fell down, I got back up, and I gave it my absolute all for the things that mattered"? The story of your life isn't written in stone. You're holding the pen, and you get to choose the mindset that writes the next chapter.